Oh boy, it's Mock Draft Live. The people have been waiting, and apologies, we're starting a little bit late tonight. We had some technical difficulties. Hopefully, Bradley will be able to join us, but if not, Tyler, Canably, and myself are manning the ship on this Mock Draft Live episode where we are doing a Superflex tight end premium rookie mock draft. Tyler, how's it going tonight, man?
It's going pretty good. I'm happy to be picking at the 111. We just did our you and I went on the Dynasty Roundtable last week and did our running back ranking. So I know all the guys you like. So I'm looking to maybe snipe somebody. You definitely know a couple of my sleepers, my flake plant players, but ready to just get into some mock draft. And there's nothing better than a draft. Like in fantasy football, I feel like drafting is the most fun part, right?
Yeah, that's why we're launching an app. It's a company called Fast Draft.
Exactly.
It's like the best. I mean, that's the best thing in fantasy football. Everybody loves a draft. Everybody loves a mock draft at this time of the year. So that's what we're gonna do. And everybody loves the rookies. So combine it all into one thing, and that's a rookie mock draft live here on the Player Profiler YouTube channel. Before we get started, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel to be tapped in with us all off season long. Although we know if you're watching this, there is no off season in Dynasty, which is exactly why we're doing this. So before we get started, and as potentially a stall tactic, although I would never stall, only for Bradley. That's it. We're gonna run a quick ad because it's tough to fit these live reads in during the draft, and we don't want to do that. So here is a quick word from the Podfather about the Dynasty Dominator, and then we will get started with this mock draft.
Now, I know many of you are looking for a secret weapon for your Dynasty League, and I have it. It's called the Dynasty Dominator app. You go to the App Store, go to Google Play. It's right there. It's $5 to download, and then every year it's $5 to load the next incoming class of rookies. You can add Superflex, add tight end premium. It's incredible because it allows you to look up players. It allows you to vote on whether a player is a buy, hold, or sell, and then see the market sentiment on that player. And you can compare their lifetime value rating from Player Profiler to their Dynasty ADP at the FFPC, all in the price lookup tool. And beyond that, we have a trade analyzer, so you'll never lose another Dynasty trade again. And in our settings, you can set this is a win now team, this is a rebuilding team, and then we let you compare players. Look at their metrics side by side, prospect metrics, NFL metrics. It's all there. It's $5 in the App Store. There's some add-ons for Superflex and to buy the upcoming rookie class. Every year, you're going to spend $5 on this thing, and it's going to be well worth it.
Oh, look what the cat dragged in. It's Bradley Stalder. How's it going, Bradley? Can you hear us? Maybe.
Yeah, I can hear you guys. How you doing?
All right, there he is.
I had to pull out the old iPad, and we're going to try to get the laptop all set up, and then we'll be good to go, I think.
All right. Well, if you're good to start, I think we'll...
Yeah, I mean, it's 1 minute per pick, so I think we'll be in good shape.
All right. And just so everybody knows, we're going to... Last time we didn't have much time to discuss this draft, like went fast and furious. So after each round, we're going to pause a little bit, talk about what happened, and maybe get into JJ McCarthy. Who knows what can happen? So anyway, without further ado, sorry for the delay. We're going to go ahead and start.
It's all my fault, everyone. Just for the record, I'm a terrible co-host, and I deserve all of the slander and the memes and the gifs of mockery that fill the sleeper chats. I deserve it.
Well, that's not quite the intention of Mock Draft Live, but anyway, mockery.
Mocking. Yes, we must mock each other.
There you go. And that's a good reminder for me to turn off the thing on Sleeper that is a weird sounding thing. So anyway, like the
mocking notifications.
Yeah, the mocking notifications. That's right. So we are going to start this bad boy. Again, it should be a minute per pick unless I screwed something up. So here we go. So this is a Superflex tight end premium rookie mock draft. So it's slightly different than the last one that we did on Monday or last Monday. So we'll see how this goes. And if you time out you will be joined in the mocking corner with shame, just shame, and hopefully this guy doesn't time out with the first pick, because that would be embarrassing.
It's looking like they might.
Yeah.
Looking like they might. But I think we got a green dot next to everybody else except Bradley.
Except Bradley.
I'm working on it, guys.
He didn't time out. He went with Marvin Harrison. How about that? Marvin Harrison. Do you guys have like a definitive 101, or do you think it's going to be like 50-50 between people, even in a Superflex league? Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison. What are your thoughts on that?
I think Marvin Harrison we obviously know he's a very, very, very good prospect. I do have a theory though, just maybe more of not a theory, but more of a question. If Marvin Harrison Jr.'s name was like Brad Johnson, do you think
Brad is a good name?
Yeah, so there you go. If it was like Brad Johnson, would he be like the same? Like, would people think about him the same way that they do? Like, because like Malik Neighbors is like, everybody loves Malik Neighbors. Everyone says that he is closer to Marvin than he is to like Roma Dunze or something like that.
Nope.
So there you go. So, but yeah, I have a theory that I think like he does get a little bit of name value. I'm not saying he's the 101 because of his name, but that's just kind of my theory.
Bradley, we'll bring you back. Here's just, I don't know what's going on. You're on the clock too. So Bradley is officially on the clock with no green dot. And I'm going to have to ask him what his name means. Did you what's
Djibouti? It's a country.
Is it?
Djibouti? Yeah, it's a country.
It's a country.
I'm guessing that's the flag of Djibouti. That would be my best guess.
Okay. Well, Tyler, you went straight for the name analysis, which is what everybody comes to this channel for.
Hey guys, can you send me the sleeper? Pause it or send me the sleeper link real quick.
Yeah, hold on. If I can figure this out, hold on. We can always like. There we go. Paused it, but you took a Dunze. But we can always.
Darn.
There we go. We can always do that. So Bradley is continuing his shame. Did you?
I made it.
Did you get the link? You're in.
No, I'm not in. Can you guys send it in the private?
You need the link. You need
the
link.
Got it.
Yeah, all right.
I pulled it up on the app, and it's not displaying for me in the app now. So I'm not sure what the issue is.
It's all good.
Man.
It's all good. But between Tyler's name analysis and Bradley not being able to figure out, we are off to just the races here, guys.
We are crushing it.
This is what we come. If his name was Brad Johnson, do you think his draft capital would be higher or lower? Than I don't know. But what is
right? I think you need to unpause it to be able to pick, right?
Okay. Now it's my fault. All right, there you go. There you go, Bradley.
Perfect. Let's go with
all right.
Brian Thomas. There we go.
Brian Thomas at 1-7.
Let's go.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Ahead of Rome, Dunze. That's probably a hot take, a mild hot take at this point, I think.
I don't know. I think that I like Brian Thomas. I think that Odunze has gotten a lot of hype recently, and I think they're in a similar tier. And I think we need to start that conversation that Odunze does not deserve to be in the Neighbors Harrison tier. And there's been a lot of people mocking him in the top 10 of NFL drafts, and I can't get there. And I think that we need to pull it back a little bit, guys.
Pull it back. All right. I mean, I'm not gonna die on that. Like I won't fight you on that one. I think that that is an interesting conversation to have, because I think everybody is just lumping in a Dunze in that top 3, right? And then Brian Thomas or Troy Franklin, whoever is 4 and 5 in some order. At least that's what the consensus is. So it's interesting. Right. But right here, I'm just gonna get my guy that I have at wide receiver 5, and then I'm going to pause the draft. So don't Don't pick. Oh, if I can figure out this technology. There we go.
There we go.
There we go. We did it, guys. We got through a round. So it goes Marvin Harrison, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, Drake May, Brock Bowers. Bradley goes with Brian Thomas. Adonze goes at 8. Troy Franklin. JJ McCarthy. There's our guy at 10. Aaron St. Dennis driving the JJ McCarthy hype train. Just on the rails, still on the rails, but who knows? It might come off the rails at some point. And then Blake Corum at 111. Interesting selection there, and Xavier Worthy. So we kind of talked about Brian Thomas. Bradley, what you said you were going to give us some JJ McCarthy takes. So what are your thoughts on JJ McCarthy? Is that a good pick at the 110?
I think his range of outcomes is extremely wide. And most people are like, his metrics are this, or his scramble ability is that, or the only reason he didn't do well at Michigan is because they ran the ball so darn much and the defense was very strong. And I'm 25 minutes outside Ann Arbor, so I got firsthand looks at JJ McCarthy, at this Michigan team, and a lot of chatter about how good McCarthy is. McCarthy, the range of outcomes for him, yes, we can say his top 5th percentile is going to be Joe Burrow, but he's probably going to be a Chad Henne. He's probably most likely going to be a serviceable backup in the NFL, and he's not going to command the draft capital that people like. And the problem is he's probably going to land on a team. Like, let's think about it. Let's go through like where he's going to land as possible landing spots. They're not organizations that we can trust necessarily, most likely, that are going to develop a player like JJ McCarthy, who's going to be 21. He's 21 years old, early declare. Those are good signals to us. Problem is he's not getting into the Caleb Williams, Drake May conversation when it comes to those skill sets and production throughout college. Like, the reality is if he were that good, he would be consensus in that conversation. He's simply not. And so when he's getting mocked at 13, 15, 18, or in the back half of the first round of the real NFL draft, that draft capital is not signaling to us that he has elite skills, and he's going to go to a team that's probably middle of the pack and probably is not going to develop him well. Unfortunately, I think the most likely outcome is probably going to be a career backup with some nice skills here or there, maybe a spot starter.
Tyler, what do you? Because I am inclined. Like, I think the best case scenario for JJ McCarthy, like, honestly, it wouldn't have been a terrible thing for him to go back to school for another year. Like, that wouldn't have been a terrible thing. Like, I know his coach left. The Michigan team's probably not going to be as good, so it made a lot of sense for him to go to the NFL as well. But he's a really young prospect, like you said. And I think, like, situation, the landing spot is going to be, like, if we're talking where does landing spot matter for players? Like JJ McCarthy, like, the landing spot is going to matter a ton for him, because if he winds up with a good offensive coach, good support system around him, he's going to probably rise higher than where Aaron took him at the 110. Because I like a lot of what I watch on tape, but the thing is that Michigan offense was a run-heavy scheme. So it wasn't necessarily heavily dependent on JJ McCarthy to make plays. Do I think he's capable of making plays at the NFL level? I do. I just think he's more of a project at this point than people would like to admit. I like him. I wish in a perfect world Andy Reid could draft him like he drafted Patrick Mahomes, and he could just sit a year, right? Like, that would be perfect for JJ McCarthy. That's just not the reality in today's NFL. Tyler, what are your thoughts on JJ McCarthy?
So I'm from Minnesota. I'm not a Vikings fan, but I'm on Vikings Twitter just because I live in the state. And it seems like all the Vikings fans are convinced that this guy's going to go to the Vikings at pick 11 in the NFL draft. And if he goes to the Vikings, like, whether maybe they re-sign Kirk and he kind of learns behind Kirk, but if they, like, I don't think it would be shocking to see the Vikings just draft him at 111. They let Kirk walk in free agency, and then McCarthy's the guy. That wouldn't shock me. Do I think it's going to happen? It's like, I don't know. I've seen a lot of stuff that, like, the NFL likes McCarthy than, like, us analysts, Twitter personalities do. So it just, like I said, until we know the draft capital, we're not going to know anything. Like, Will Levis was a guy who everyone thought was going to go in the top 5 last year, and then he falls out of the first round. So JJ McCarthy kind of feels like one of the, like that situation, not the same player by any means, but that same situation where it's going to totally depend on how the NFL views this guy. And I think we'll see the reflection of that, of where he goes in rookie drafts.
I think that's well said all around. So Aaron St. Dennis, big fan of McCarthy, taking him in the first round. Went as high as I think 4th or 5th in our last mock draft. So that's a player to keep an eye on. You took Blake Corum as the RB1 in the first round, Tyler. Thoughts on that pick real quick?
I like Blake Corum, man. I was watching his film the other day, and the only thing really missing from his game is like that top end breakaway speed. Like, he doesn't have the same speed as Trey Benson, but the way he makes just guys miss in general. I even went back to his 2022 tape before the ACL. And he's just electric, man. Like, he was going to be one of the, I think if he doesn't tear his ACL, he comes out last year of Michigan, and probably them losing in the playoff didn't help either. But he's just like, he just can just make anybody miss on the field. I mean, you play in a conference that's like, it's a heavy run conference, like, and teams are designed to stop the run. And it didn't matter for Blake Corum. Like, he's just a really, really, really good all around back. He seems like he does just everything well. So I like Blake Corum, and I think everyone's RB rankings are a little different, but I feel like he's almost like I don't want to say a day 2 lock, but it feels like he's going to go in day 2. And we were talking in the pre-show, if this guy ends up like on the Ravens, like, this is that's a great landing spot for any running back that goes to the Ravens. Like, he feels like J.K. Dobbins a little bit, not top end speed, but coming out of the Big Ten, big program, just a really good all around running back. Like, prime J.K. Dobbins is kind of what he feels like a little bit.
What do you think, Bradley? You were right there in Michigan. What thoughts on Blake Corum?
Yeah, it was a thunder and lightning scenario in Michigan with Blake Corum and the other running backs, but Corum was just Mr. Consistency. And you mentioned, I like the J.K. Dobbins comp, a really strong runner between the tackles, a guy who can break off some runs, and a guy who is coming off of, he had a big injury last year, and then there was questions of whether he would declare or not. He ends up going back to Michigan. I think that was just fine for his draft capital, and it was just fine we anticipate him either day 2 or early day 3, probably a 3rd, 4th round pick is where I see a lot of him getting mocked. There aren't for what it's worth, a lot of running backs getting mocked outside like 3rd round or earlier. So Corum is probably going to be near the top of the class anyways. And even though he's not the running back 1 for me in this class, I'm fine with him going right there.
Yeah, and I like Corum a lot. He's my RB2 in this class. Xavier Worthy for me is my wide receiver 4. I think this is another wide receiver with a big range of outcomes. But if you hit on him, it could be a home run because of the speed. We learned last year that some of these undersized receivers, the Zay Flowers of the world, Jordan Addison, were successful in their rookie season. And Xavier Worthy, just on tape, like, there's some deficiencies in his game. Like, he'll probably drop more passes than you'd like him to, but there's no doubt that he's an electric playmaker, especially deep down the field. And I think some team is I have a sneaking suspicion that he's going to be a 1st round pick just based on his talent profile. We'll see. But yeah, so I think he's a guy that could shoot up these draft boards, and I'm fine taking him at the 112. And you kind of have to take your guy when you're at the 112, right? You kind of had, just because that he's not coming back to me. So I had to take him there and get some value on Xavier Worthy. So if it's all right with you guys, I'll start this up and we'll do round 2. So here we go.
Let's go.
Thanks, Seth.
What's that?
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your screen. You're the one that's in control, kind of driving the sleeper draft. So it's a job where it's kind of like playing offensive line. No one really notices unless you mess up.
That's right. The last draft we did, I don't know if people watched it, they know, but that my whole queue was on display for everybody to see. So that was great. So everybody, let's talk about it, manipulating a mock draft, but nobody's in the queue tonight. Nothing's going to happen. So here in round 2, we got Bo Nix, Malachi Corley, at the 2-2. That the hype train is real with Malachi Corley. JB, our tight end 2, Sanders from Texas, comes off the board at the 2-3, and no doubt the tight end premium is affecting that, I would guess. And we're off and running with Adonai Mitchell, Ed DeLauder there. So what are our thoughts on this first half of the second round? Is it any surprises here?
I think Malachi Corley going over Keon Coleman and Adonai Mitchell, both of those guys could get first round draft capital. I think it'd be a shock if, as much as I love Malachi Corley, I think that's well documented from the last draft, but I think Adonai Mitchell and Coleman both go ahead of Corley in the real NFL draft. So draft capital is just one of the things people like to pay attention to, but I think this early in the process, you kind of have to go with the better prospect. And like I said, very much a Malachi Corley fan, but just I think not saying it's a wrong pick, just a surprise,
Yeah, I agree. I like Corley a lot. I think his run after the catch. One thing to note about Malachi Corley, and he refuted this at the Senior Bowl, saying that he could run all the routes. He did stay close to the line of scrimmage. Like if you look, his ADOT, it's really, really low. But again, that's, we're projecting, and he's saying it like, I can run all the routes. I can run deep down the field. It's just, I was so good with the ball in my hands that they just ran a ton of wide receiver screens for me. And that's not my problem, so anyway. So you went, I like your pick, Bradley. Talk to us about Estime a little bit.
Well, the Notre Dame bias is flowing right now. Audric Estime, a product of the University of Notre Dame, highest PFF rush grade among all running backs in 2024, a 94, 18 rushing touchdowns, only 1 fumble, the 4.3 yards after contact per attempt, and was useful in the passing game, a 73 PFF passer grade. And 1.3 yards per route run. This was a guy who could run the routes. He tote the rock. He's built like your prototypical running back. I think he's going to get your late day 2, early day 3 capital. And one thing that we've noticed as of late is that some of these running backs are getting pushed back, and we're seeing more of these very early day 3 running backs hitting. And with some of the metrics that we've seen from Estime, or that we will see, I'm not at all concerned. Played 3 years at Notre Dame, early declared, like he will turn 21 in September. Okay. And so 2 years of solid production at Notre Dame. I am very here for Audric Estime. I think he's one who we're going to monitor the metrics and all the things that happen in the combine, but a lot of things look good for him. And hopefully he doesn't get Kyron Williams, because another Notre Dame running back who could do it all. And now we've seen, him really produce and be a consensus first round draft pick right now in these way too early 2024 drafts. So Estime, I think, is a player that very much needs to be in the middle second round consideration, even in Superflex.
And I like that you, because I have not talked to Bradley at all about the rookies, but you read my mind because you took him. Braylon Allen was sitting there for you, who's a very similarly styled running back, at least on paper, but at least for me on tape. And I've talked to Tyler on the Dynasty Roundtable about this. I was too much of a chicken to rank Braylon Allen above Estime, but I wanted to, because the tape, I felt like on tape, Estime was just better. Flash, more breakaway speed to me, was better outside the tackles, just better in a lot of areas of the game. And you taking him here gives me more confidence to rank Audric Estime above Braylon Allen. So I'm here for it. And that's one of the running backs, mid second round, and you getting them there, I feel like that's a fantastic value. Bucky Irving, Tyler, I think this is a good pick too. Talk to me about Bucky Irving.
Bucky Irving, probably the exact opposite of Braylon Allen and Audric Estime. Just a lot shorter, a lot smaller, but we've seen some smaller guys have success in the league here. You got Devontez from last year. You got Tajay Spears kind of toward the end there. Obviously, he does not have the speed of Achon, but at least we're kind of seeing a little bit of a trend of some smaller running backs kind of get it done for fantasy football purposes, which is what I like about Bucky Irving. I think he's the most elusive back in this class in just terms of if it's one-on-one with a safety, a linebacker, a corner, this guy is not going to get tackled in the open field from the first tackler. He's going to make somebody miss almost every time he touches the ball. Kind of feels more like Tajay Spears from last year. I know we talked about that on the round table, but I think he just has he's just got juice. This guy's electric. So I like Bucky Irving. I don't care. The size is a concern, the height, all that. But I mean, this guy caught, I think it was 52 passes or 62 passes from Oregon last year. He's going to get it done he's going to be on the field for some passing work, third down. So he's going to have a role no matter what team he goes to. How big that role is going to be totally dependent on which running back room he lands up in. But I'm willing to bet on the talent of Bucky Irving. I love this guy.
Yeah, Bucky Irving, great pick there at the end of the second round. So you go running back, and I go receiver with Devontez Walker. And it was a toss. I was very torn between Devontez Walker and Roman Wilson. Roman Wilson's one of my favorite prospects in this entire draft. I feel like he's the Jaden Reed of this draft, who's going to be that third round rookie that you're going to want. Him and I know Marvin Mims hasn't really hit yet, but Marvin Mims, another guy that you should go buy in Dynasty, at least as far as I'm concerned. Devontez Walker though is the opposite of Xavier Worthy. He's 6'3", 200 pounds, runs a sub 4.4 40, and just is a great deep down the field receiver. So again, I'm swinging for the upside. Roman Wilson might be the safer pick because Roman Wilson works that short to intermediate, great route runner section of the field. And I'm fine with either player. I just have Devontez Walker ranked a little bit higher in my rankings right now. So we ready for round 3?
Let's do it.
All right.
Let's go.
I gotta hit the button.
I got some guys queued up already. I'm ready to.
All right.
One of these guys, I'm good.
Good. I feel like both of these drafts we've done is pretty. There's been some surprises like Malachi Corley getting pushed up here, McCarthy in the last draft getting pushed up. But overall, it's I feel like it's pretty good conversation, pretty good, pretty sharp. We got some sharp people in here, I think. So Michael Penix, first pick in the third round.
It's kind of crazy how remember Penix after the Texas game? It's this guy's going to be surefire mid first round pick. Everybody loved Penix after that game. Then it's the Michigan game. It's the complete opposite. Nobody cares. This guy is terrible. He's going to go in the team's got a second round grade on him or third, fifth round grade. It's just he's nobody. I'm convinced that if he would have threw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns against Michigan, he'd probably be a solidified first round pick.
Yeah, I was never big really on Michael Penix. So I was never on that, but definitely the hype definitely skyrocketed into that national championship game. And I honestly don't think he played that bad in the national the stats aren't eye popping, but I think in the third round, you're sitting there at the 3-1, Michael Penix is on the board. Hell yeah. I'll take Michael Penix in the third round of a Superflex rookie draft. Now you'll probably know a lot more about Michael Penix landing spot. Obviously we got the NFL Combine coming up, which isn't as big of a deal for quarterbacks, but still, we'll have more pieces to the puzzle. So who knows? Maybe the Steelers. I mean, they're sitting there in the late first round. They need a quarterback. You just never know what can happen in this NFL world that we live in. So we got Spencer Rattler. We got Javon Baker coming off the board ahead of Roman Wilson and McMillan. Spencer Rattler, Ricky Pearsall, Brendan Rice, Jalen Polk, Xavier Legette, Will Shipley, and Tyler is now on the board. And he goes running back with Ray Davis. And what am I going to do here? I think I'm going to go running back with Marshawn Lloyd, and then we'll pause it to discuss. So, Bradley, you took Brendan Rice in the third round. Talk to us about the USC receiver.
Yeah, if there's a guy in this draft who has pedigree It's Brenden Rice.
Yeah.
Dang right. Let's go, pedigree. And it's going to be hard to not get sponsorship from an NFL organization. What you're Brenden Rice, you're Jerry Rice's, son. You've got the legacy there. And so like that's something that as much as we as fantasy analysts like say, okay, we've got the measurables. We've got he's 22 years old now, or will be when the draft happens, and it took him 4 years to finally have this big breakout at USC with Caleb Williams, blah blah blah. Like the reality is that if an NFL team drafts Brenden Rice, they're gonna know who he is and they're gonna know what he's gonna bring, and it's okay to develop him and take some time with him because they are aware of the surroundings of his name and the legacy that he brings. And so you don't treat people poorly. You don't treat family members poorly, in the NFL organization. You have to, there's going to be some sponsorship. There's going to be some propping up. And even with all of the flaws, there's been some 6'3", 210. That's a good wide receiver frame. There's going to be some measurables we're interested here at the combine about. And only had a couple big games. He did have the UCLA game back, at the end of the season, 8 for 147 and a touchdown, and he went 7 for 133 against Arizona State. But he did not perform against my Fighting Irish. So, 2 for 18 is not going to get it done. He did get the touchdown there, but this is a player that you're going to see get day 2 draft capital and some sponsorship, and we need to realize that that's going to weigh very heavily for NFL teams. So he may not be a great prospect, but we could see, I know that they share the last name, but we could see some Rashee Rice skepticism entering the season where he's going to be day 2. We don't know if he's going to be very good, but an NFL team is going to invest in him and see him develop. And that's what I'm banking on with Brenden Rice.
He also had a really good Senior Bowl by the accounts that people, the Jason Alwine, Cody Carpentier, Alex Dunlap, all said like they were expecting Xavier Legette to be this DK Metcalf-like player. And you show up and Xavier Legette here, as you see, is at the 3.9. And he's just fallen down. Like if there's one of the biggest fallers in rookie drafts early in the process is got to be Xavier Legette. And I would guess that has to do with, people like he wasn't as big as people thought, and he didn't perform as well as we thought. And maybe our expectations were too high, but the one player that they did point to and say, man, if anybody looks like DK Metcalf out here, it's Brenden Rice, man. Like this guy's big, he's physical, and he looks like a pretty darn good player. And for you to get him in the 3rd round, like this is why we've been preaching. You need to go load up on these 3rd round picks. Look at the 3rd round here. Roman Wilson's in this 3rd round. Brenden Rice, Jalen Polk, who Cody Carpentier compared to Adam Thielen, which if you get Adam Thielen in the 3rd round of your rookie draft, you'd be pretty happy with that. I would assume. Ray Davis, who's Tyler's pick. Ray Davis is a good football player. Like, talk to us about Ray Davis, Tyler.
I don't want to spend too much time on Ray Davis. I've done it all. I'll just say that for those who have not heard me do my Ray Davis rant yet, it's all pretty much just like film oriented. I get that he's a little older. I don't care. You turn on the Kentucky film from this year, and he's electric. Go turn on the Florida game. If you're gonna watch one game, go watch the Florida game. I mean, I think it was earlier in the season, and the announcers in the middle, like during the game, they're talking about this guy for the Heisman. Like that's how good he played against Florida. And say what you want about Florida, it's still an SEC team. It's still at least a program with a name. So, and it's just the vision, the power, the speed. I think this guy has it all. Yes, he's a little shorter, but he's big. Like he's not like Bucky Irving is short, and he's probably like me. He's gonna be lucky to break 200 pounds when he weighs in at the combine. Ray Davis is shorter, but he's like, I think he's gonna be around probably 210, 215, like a big, like a stockier guy, but the speed, like it's still there. So I'm all the way in on Ray Davis. I actually have Ray Davis like personally ranked as my RB3. So I actually have him above Bucky Irving, but I didn't want to do the rant again. I was hoping somebody else would take him. But when Ray Davis is staring at me at the 311, I can't say no. And real quick before we move on, I just want to say, like, what are your guys' thoughts? We mentioned it before, Xavier Legette, because the guy had an absolute monster season at South Carolina. But the problem is it was his only monster season. He had last year 167 yards total as a senior. He was a grad senior or whatever, like a fifth year this season. So is it like kind of the thing where it's a 23-year-old dominating against 18 and 19-year-olds, or what is it? Because his highlights are kind of electric, and his film it's fun to watch from this season, but it's such a late breakout. And I feel like we just don't talk that much about Xavier Legette. So I'm just curious to hear either of your thoughts on the DK Metcalf comparison type of deal.
Well, I'll say this. The 3.9 is probably a good chance to take on somebody whose profiles like Xavier Legette, because that's a big swing to take in your rookie drafts, but it's a swing that you can stomach a little bit better later in the third round. Because that's too low for him, honestly, because you're right. Like, if you turn on the tape of South Carolina, I mean, he's just running away from everybody, and it's ridiculous. He does look like DK Metcalf. It's just the Senior Bowl, he did not do as well as we thought he would do. And there were other players like Roman Wilson, for instance, who performed better. And so that's why those players are being drafted more highly now. But we still have a lot of pieces of the puzzle to go. Like, we have the combine at the end of this month. We're going to find out exactly how much this guy weighs. We're going to find out exactly how tall he is, right? And so that's going to be another piece of the puzzle. We're going to find out how he performs. And that's one of the players, like, I'm most fascinated to see at the combine is Xavier Legette, because I feel like it's so important for him to perform well, because he could really shoot down draft boards or he could shoot up. And you're right. I think he was dealing with he was hurt early in his career, if I'm not mistaken. So that had something to do with him not breaking out sooner than he did. But you're right. The 1 year of production later in your career is usually a red flag.
Well, I'll say something from not necessarily Legette, but from a philosophy of when you're doing these rookie drafts and you're torn on what type of profiles. We'll get more information as we go on. But when you get into these third, fourth rounds, the probability of a wide receiver hitting is very, very low. And so, like, that's something to keep in mind, as well as positional scarcity. Like, the probability that a running back in the third round is going to give you 1 or 2 or 3 usable seasons, that's a lot higher than a wide receiver at this point in your rookie drafts who's, he's going at the 3.9 for a reason. We have our concerns, lack of production for a long time. When he did, it was big, but the Senior Bowl was questionable. There's some red flags that are popping up about this profile that's driving him down. Instead, this is where, especially, Seth, you were talking about gobbling up these third round rookie picks. This is the time. This is like the space where you do want to be targeting, taking these running backs, the Shipleys, the Davis, the Lloyds, if you have your Bucky Irving fall to the third round, like, those are the types of moves that you want to be making. And there's going to be a lot of these running backs that are going to be flashing. And I'll talk about a running back that probably shouldn't be or won't be going in the fourth round, but I'm going to draft him anyways. He's definitely not on your radar. But the reality is running backs, especially in these third and fourth rounds of your rookie drafts, when you're feeling agnostic toward wide receiver prospects.
Yeah, that's a good point to make, because, as excited. Well, there might be some exceptions for me anyway. Like Roman Wilson, I already know I'm gonna have a ton of Roman Wilson if he falls to the third round, and Brendan Rice too. I think is like another
right,
one
but
of
you
those
have
guys.
a second round value of some of those players, like the players we definitely have third round values of. They're the ones we should probably avoid more often than not, at least from the wide receiver position.
That's a good distinction to make. You're right, because you are correct that running back is a safer bet in these rounds in general. Like, that's just generally good advice, and that's hardly disputable. So speaking of running back, I went Marshawn Lloyd after Tyler went Ray Davis, another Senior Bowl guy. Only 1 year of production for him too. But again, 3rd round, profiles really well. When you, again, another tape guy that if you turn on the tape, I like a lot of what I see. So Marshawn Lloyd, I believe he's my RB7 in the class, and I get him at what, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So pretty good value there, combined with, you know, my draft slot at the 312. Are we ready to finish this bad boy off with the 4th round?
Let's go.
Let's roll.
All right, here we go. So 4th round, kicking off. Again, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're not already doing so. You can go follow Tyler at PPR Tyler on Twitter. Bradley, I apologize. What is your Twitter handle? Tell the people where they can follow you.
At Djibouti Puns.
And you changed it because it used to be Stalder FF, if I'm not mistaken.
It used to be at FF Stalder, and then I decided, you know what? I need an unserious Twitter handle for some serious analysis.
There you go. What does Djibouti Puns mean? What does that mean?
Yeah, so Djibouti, Seth, do you know the capital of Djibouti? Because it's a country. Do you know what the capital city?
We're not making this is not a butt joke. This is not we're not making butt jokes. Djibouti. Okay. Kayshawn Booty. I have no idea what the capital of your booty is, or Djibouti.
It's Djibouti.
Djibouti.
Oh,
it's like
okay.
New York,
Djibouti.
New York. It's Djibouti, which is phenomenal. So there should be some honor, and so this is wild stuff. I'm here to share geographical, information with y'all.
Yeah.
It was my original Twitter or sleeper handle for many, many years. And then I thought, you know what, maybe I should be a little bit more serious. And then I decided, you know what, screw it. We'll just go back to what's the original Djibouti Puns. That's me.
There you go.
That's it.
Wow. So nice. They named it twice. Djibouti. Who would have known?
Djibouti.
And just to cover all of Bradley's bases, when he said Djibouti is the capital of Djibouti, and he said New York, I think he just meant the cities, because the capital of New York is Albany, not New York. So I just want to make sure that all of Bradley's bases are covered. Before somebody in the chat thinks they're too smart.
Tyler, this is America. Nobody knows geography. Okay, like nobody.
I think I could name like 48 capitals. I think.
What?
I think I could do
it.
You can? I think 48.
Oh
I
my
can get.
God,
I don't know about 50.
That'd be more impressive than this mock draft if you could do that.
Oh, tight end premium.
Without a doubt.
Ooh, let's go.
All right, I got to pull up. I got to block half the draft board. I got to figure out how to modify this. I think. Oh yeah, the tight end premium. I'm trying. I'm scrolling just to make sure. Oh my gosh, there's so much good stuff still here. All right, I just gotta go with my guy Theo Johnson from Penn State.
There you go. I love it.
And the draft on a high note. So now we have a complete draft. Jermaine Burton, who I was actually considering, and I don't know why. I feel like I'm going to war for Jermaine Burton because I really like him. And I think he's going to fall to the 4th round in a lot of these Superflex rookie mock drafts. And I think that's, again, you're taking a wide receiver, but if you're going to take one, I feel like that's a good pick. Our guy from Tennessee falls all the way to round 4 in this draft. I want to say he was taken in like the 2nd round of in the last draft. And then Johnny Wilson, Dylan Lobb, Malik Washington, Jamari Thrash, and then your guy. I honestly don't know who this is. You're gonna have to educate me, Bradley. What's his first name? Watson.
Blake Watson.
Blake Watson.
Blake Watson, running back out of Memphis, and that's why it's significant. We have 2 other NFL pedigree running backs coming out of Memphis as of late. We've got Kenny Gainwell and Antonio Gibson. Both players who profile as pass-catching running backs. And what do we know about Blake Watson? Oh, he can catch passes. He has one of the better passing grades, PFF passing grades. He has one of the better pass blocking grades among receiving type running backs. And in fact, among all running backs in all of college football that have declared for the 2024 draft, so they think there's like 80 of them, he led all running backs in targets and receptions in 2023. So this is a player that should be on your radar. He was not invited to the combine, so that's, a little frustrating on my end, it being a Blake Watson truther. But I think that he will get some run. Maybe he's going to be a late ad, or I don't know. I'm optimistic about Blake Watson fitting in. He's 5'9", 195. So he's got some okay size. And just, will he have the speed? Because he had a good PFF rush grade, good receiving grade, caught a lot of passes out of Memphis. And we've seen those types of players get roles in the NFL. So the last round of your rookie drafts are players you don't want to leave without. And one of the players that is out very much on my radar here, February 19th, is Blake Watson.
Good. Wow. I'm getting educated. Djibouti is the capital of Djibouti. Albany is the capital of New York, which I'm not going to lie, I had no idea. And now I get Ben, what was his name? Blake Watson.
Yes.
I almost said Ben Watson, the tight end from New England. So anyway, Blake Watson, everybody from Memphis. I'll have to go turn on the tape when we get off this show. Good stuff. Jahiem Bell, Tyler. Why Jahiem Bell?
So definitely a different bit of a tight end from this class. He is out of Florida State. A lot of NFL prospects coming out of Florida State in this draft, but he's a little bit different. So he's I think he's only 6'1". That's what he's listed at. So he's not one of these big tight ends. Like usually tight ends got to be usually above 6'3". I feel like that's kind of like what's the word I'm looking for? The standard. There it is. The standard for tight ends in the NFL. But Jahiem Bell, just a really athletic, bigger body guy. It's kind of I think there's a couple clips I saw of him out of Florida State, getting handoffs, which not a lot of tight ends getting handoffs unless your name's Brock Bowers in the college game.
Smith.
Jonnu Smith. Trust me, Falcons fan here. I'm very aware of Jonnu Smith throwing passes to Michael Pruitt against Tennessee. Very aware. And speaking of Tennessee,
that is Arthur Smith for what it's worth.
Yeah. And speaking of Tennessee, Chigo Okonkwo, they feel like similar type of players. Chigo Okonkwo, very smaller player, more athletic. Definitely not the typical tight end you're going to find in the league. So Jahiem Bell kind of feels like Chigo Okonkwo, it may be if Chigo Okonkwo was on a different team, I think we'd feel a little what if Chigo Okonkwo was on the Chargers this season, I feel like we feel pretty good about Chigo Okonkwo. So Jahiem Bell, just a very athletic, shorter type of guy, but I kind of feel like that could translate more to the NFL than a slow 6'6" dude out of Wisconsin or something like that.
Yeah, another Senior Bowl guy who had a good Senior Bowl. Jason Alwine was hyping him up. Theo Johnson is a man's man, 6'7", 251 from Penn State. He runs a 4.63 is what we have him at. So it's gonna be interesting to see how fast that big man can run. Penn State loved to run the football, so I'm assuming hopefully he wasn't too good at blocking, so they don't use him like a Darnell Washington type. But with the last pick at the 412 and a tight end premium, there were multiple players I could have taken. Oh, they're not gonna show them to me. But I ended up going with the tight end there. I feel like there's some more running backs on the board that I was considering. But Theo Johnson, I feel pretty good as the tight end 5 at the 412. And that is gonna wrap up this mock draft. Real quick, we'll go around kind of like we did last time. We'll start with you, Bradley. Give us anything you want. Well, first, I'm getting ahead of myself. Give me one player who you think went too late or too early, and then plug anything you have to plug.
Yeah, I think Sanders at the 2-3 was a good value. I have been hearing rumblings he may get into early second or even late first round draft capital, which would be phenomenal. He's an absolute beast. And then a tight end premium, back end first, if not even ahead of McCarthy or Franklin. I think that could be where he goes. And so good value on Sanders there. And you can find me on Thursdays doing all the Thursday things. So Player Profiler today on Thursdays from 7 to 7:30. And then I get a half-hour reprieve until 8 o'clock Stack Hunters. And that is our Player Profiler Best Ball show. We've had some great guests on in the past. Herzig has been on. Michael Leone has been on. We've got some great guests coming up. Josh Larkey is going to be coming up here. Jim Coventry is coming up in March. We've got a few real all-stars coming up. And Toyo is coming up in a week from Thursday. He won the FFPC Best Ball playoff championship. So he's going to talk with me about his early 2024 strategies. It's going to be a lot of fun. Me and then Dan Williamson also joins me on occasion in the Stack Hunters. Shout out to Dan, who is now on vacation. I think he's at like St. Martin. So he's having a good time, just hanging out. And while we're here doing mock drafts, shout out to you, Dan.
Yeah, Dan was on the Dynasty Roundtable with us, and that's one of my favorite episodes we've ever done with Dan. And then Dan's going to be coming back on. He's going to be all over the Player Profiler streets. But if you're not familiar with Stack Hunters on Thursdays, you got to go watch it. You got to subscribe to the channel so you can be reminded to watch it. It's like some of the better best ball content that you're going to see out there in the YouTube streets. So check Bradley out there. Tyler, one player too high or too low, and then plug your stuff.
One player that went too low, I'm going to say Adonai Mitchell, a player that I really love. I think he could easily be the wide receiver 4 in this class. I don't really have a set wide receivers rankings, but Adonai Mitchell is up there for me. Transferred from Georgia, goes to Texas. And if he's not one of these guys who has crazy good production, but if you turn on the Texas film, he is just like, he has the speed. He's a route runner. He can go up and get it. Like, there's a lot of things that this guy can do. I think it'll be kind of just one of those situations where an NFL team's going to fall in love with the tape, and he could easily go. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if he went in the first round of the NFL draft. So I think Adonai Mitchell went a little too late, especially over Keon Coleman, who, yeah, his Florida State film is really fun to watch, but like so was I feel like it's kind of an unfair comparison. Remember Denzel Mims, just a big dude out of Baylor, mossing everybody. That's kind of what Keon Coleman feels like a little bit, but it's kind of, I think he's a more athletic than Denzel Mims was in terms of speed. I'm not here to get caught up on Denzel Mims and Keon Coleman comparisons, but I do love Adonai Mitchell. And just follow me at PPR Tyler on Twitter. Posting a lot of fun stuff there. Some running back cut-ups a little bit. I like kind of diving into some running back film. So I posted some, I wouldn't call them breakout videos, but some fun little tidbits there. And yeah, if you love memes too, a lot of memes happening on the at PPR Tyler Twitter page. So if you love NFL memes specifically or Timberwolves content, go follow me on Twitter there.
Yeah.
Also, Tyler does a great job with the news desk. He's been putting out some Dynasty content, news desk too. So I'm also head of the news desk, and Tyler's been crushing it with our Dynasty video content and the Player Profiler news channel and all that. So shout out to you, Tyler, and the rest of the news team.
And Player Profiler today just got moved to the Profiler News YouTube channel, which you should definitely go check out. Is that what it's called? Correct, right? Profile News.
Yeah, Player Profiler News.
Yep.
Go subscribe to that channel too. That channel, it's growing, baby. It's growing. So get on the hype train with us. I am Seth Dewald. I'm the editor at playerprofiler.com. You can find me on Twitter at Seth_DIEWOLD for, whatever Bears takes you want to listen to, like Iowa football references. You can find it all there, and the occasional good piece of fantasy football advice, hopefully.
More than occasional.
Well, it's sometimes, Anyway, I think that's going to do it for us. Thank you so much for watching, everybody in the audience. The chat was alive tonight, so thank you there. Shout out to our producer, Alex McCurt. I probably got his last name wrong, but Alex is killing it in the chat. One of our new producers. We are so appreciative of him and his hard work, along with all the people at Player Profiler who make shows like this happen, all of our subscribers and whatnot. We thank you. And one last time, don't forget to click like and subscribe. And nobody cares about Aaron Rodgers. And we all know that was Not an invalid fair catch, Minnesota Gophers fans. We all know Cooper DeJean did not make an invalid fair catch. Wiseman for Heisman. We'll see you next time, everybody. Bye-bye.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.